This is Launching Your Daughter podcast, and I'm your host, Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. Now, here is today's episode. Episode 8. Welcome. My guest today is Dr. Melissa DeTore, who is a psychologist and yoga instructor. She is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Melissa offers a variety of workshops for adults and teens wanting to manage their anxiety or depression symptoms using yoga and mindfulness in her practice. She explains how mindfulness can change the brain and help in managing stressors in life. I have done yoga on and off for years, and I love how it allows for each person to focus on their breathing, become more aware of their body, and moving into a pose. I find it to be a great way to do moving meditation. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I did with Melissa. I think yoga and mindfulness can not only benefit teen girls, but support parents as well. Now here is today's episode. So welcome everybody. Today I have Dr. Melissa DeTore, who is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here to talk about how she is not only a psychologist, but she's a yoga instructor, and how those two fields work together to help teenagers and even all the way down to children, and how creating mindfulness and the body-mind connection can help decrease anxiety and depression. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I would love it if you can talk a little more about what it is that you do and why you do what you do, because I think it's an absolute wonderful thing of the services that you provide.
Thank you. So I am a psychologist. I'm also a yoga instructor. My interest in yoga started, I would say, in high school. A local yoga studio opened up and I kind of tried it out. And then through college, I continued to practice at the school gym, and I was certified in 2014. And I'm also very interested in meditation and mindfulness. And one of my parents is actually certified in TM. So I was kind of exposed to it a little bit as a child. And then in college, I actually did a college course with a Buddhist monk and learned all different ways to meditate. So it was really cool. And I've, continued that. And in my graduate work, been exposed to mindfulness, which is a really cutting edge treatment that we're using in this field right now to kind of improve your functioning and help with anxiety and depression. And I'm also personally a cancer survivor, so the yoga and meditation really helped me recover after my chemotherapy and all my surgeries. So,
Is that more to, one, keep you more calm, to help keep your mind in a more positive place and to manage pain and just stressors in general?
All of it. And then also specifically the meditation. With the chemotherapy, it can affect the way that your mind works. We call them cognitive deficits. And the chemotherapy really helped me get back to where I was before. It was the meditation did that. It was the only thing that helped my brain get back to where it was before. So, and we'll talk a little bit about how meditation and yoga can actually change the way your brain works, and I've experienced that firsthand. So,
well, that's beautiful. If you'd like to, let's just head right into that, of how the mindfulness and all of this works so well, especially for teenagers and or their parents and adults and all of that. How does this really work?
So, I think you mentioned it. It's the mind-body connection, and what we know now is that the mind and the body work together. You can't just treat one and expect the other to be okay. You need to look at both of them because our bodies are a system and our mind is a system that integrate and work together. So the beautiful thing about yoga and mindfulness is that they target the mind and the body. And so as a psychologist, I often use yoga and mindfulness as part of my treatment. So I actually say, hey, I want you to look at these videos and start practicing yoga, or we do mindfulness together in session, because it really helps how you are functioning overall. So the research shows us that yoga can actually help you reduce your stress, reduce your depression, reduce your anxiety, can help with your energy level, and help if you're feeling really tired. And research is really coming out now looking at how this really affects it. So we're learning more and more each day, really. And one of the things that we know about yoga and mindfulness now is that it actually does affect how your brain functions, and so it can affect the neurotransmitters, which are at play with anxiety and depression, and it can help your brain make new connections. And
Hmm.
that's especially important for teens when your brain's, it's working to grow, and it really helps support that and enhance that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this is a age where, yeah, there's a lot of changes that go on into the brain. And I know sometimes when I'm talking with my clients, it goes back to that old saying, the neurons that fire together wire together. And so
Hmm.
this is all part of it. If it's being able to
Yes.
calm that down. And again, so many people feel stressed out. They're worried. They've got a lot of pressures put on them. And I know for girls, especially, they seem to have a lot of external pressure that they
Yes.
internalize. And so having more of this mindfulness around it where they can do the deep breathing or doing the yoga stretching where it helps calm and create different connections like what you're talking about in the brain, that will definitely help them as they launch, go off to college, go off to a trade school, just go off
Hmm.
and work, where when these other stressors come up, they have some tools to work with to help calm that down.
Yes, I want to speak directly to that external pressure
Hmm.
that teens feel, especially our girls. It's everywhere. Now that we have social media and there's access to
Yes.
images 24 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that's beautiful about yoga is you're on your mat and you're practicing with you. Even if you're in a class, you're not looking at the person next to you. The instructor is really encouraging you to just focus on yourself. We're not looking to compare and see what pose is your neighbor doing. Can they do
Hmm.
that perfectly or can you do it perfectly? It's all about your own practice. And that's kind of our mantra in yoga is this is your own practice. Listen to your body, do what you can. And really, as an instructor, I see my students, not everybody's doing the same pose at the same time. There's modifications for everything if you have injuries. So it really encourages you just to listen to your own body and focus on yourself and not worry about what's going on next to you and the external pressures. So I think it really gives that connection, which can start to build confidence and
Yes.
mastery as a teen. Because I think even in other physical activities, other sports, you're competing, you're looking at one another, am
Hmm.
I the best at this and that? And yoga is the opposite. We're not looking for the best. We're looking about what works for you. And so not only do doing the actual movements help reduce stress, but actually the practice itself encourages you to be your own person. And
Hmm.
I think, as teens, that's hard to figure out,
Yes.
what are my boundaries? What's important for me versus what's important for the person next to me? It's really an environment that encourages. It's not intimidating. It's something where, every the instructor will constantly be saying to you, do your own thing. If you want to sit and rest the entire class, nobody has a problem with that.
Yeah.
So it really encourages you to be your own person.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I love too that you stated that every pose can be modified because that's true. That if there's an injury or your body is just more stiff because you've never done yoga before, there are ways to modify it so that you're doing it, as you say, your own pace and listening truly to where your body is and not trying to force it and be more uncomfortable.
Yes, and I think some of the concerns I think that particularly teens have
Hmm.
is that am I able to do it? Do I have the right body type for this? Do I
Yeah.
have the right ability level? Am I going to be wearing the right outfit?
Hmm.
And none of that matters in yoga.
Right.
Really, any body type can do this, any physical level. If you have any injuries, if you have any specific needs that you need to accommodate, yoga is meant for that. And it's meant for an individual practice. You do what you can when you can, where you are. So, you don't have to be wearing any specific outfit. I think that seems very popular right now is, there's a certain look for yoga and it's just
Right.
simply not true. Anybody can do it. You can come in your sweats or you can come in, anything that you want. there's
Right.
not a specific person that is meant for yoga. So I think that's a fear that people have, especially girls. Is like,
Hmm.
am I in the right class? Is this for me? And it truly is a practice that is for everybody.
Yeah, and I really like too that just it doesn't matter the body type. You don't have to have that specific outfit on, which again, I know the teen girls, there's so much
Yeah.
media pressure on them for to look a certain way, be a certain way. And as you said earlier, it's also comparing themselves to their teens counterparts, and that can be detrimental. It's like, no, no, no,
Hmm.
this is about you. Let's get you out of your head, back reconnecting to your body, raising that awareness, and changing how your brain is working and processing so that when new things come up in the future, you're not so externally focused. You can
Hmm.
stop, take that deep breath, go within, and keep moving forward. Yeah,
One
beautiful.
one of the other things I've personally experienced in most studios that I've practiced in,
Hmm.
there's not really even any mirrors. So you can't even
Oh,
be
yeah.
looking at yourself while you're practicing.
Lovely.
So it's really you're able to go inside, focus on your external experience and your internal experience and your external experience, but you're not looking and watching yourself.
Yeah.
Which if you go to a gym, there's mirrors everywhere, and
Yes.
so it does make a little bit of a difference to shift your focus, and
Yeah.
I think that's particularly important for teens.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Absolutely. Yeah, as what you talked about earlier, that, the images they have in social media, they're on 24/7, and it's the constant, I've got to be this or I've got to do
Mhm,
this. And it's like, whoa, take a step back, just take a deep breath. And it's all about you knowing you and remaining more calm and with, yeah, just better awareness of where you are and who you are. And you're enough. You don't have
mhm.
to be somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, you are enough, and, at the end of every practice, and even in the beginning, we say namaste, which means the light in me honors the light in you. So we're connecting and honoring everybody for who they are and what they bring to the table, not asking anybody to change that, but saying, "You're beautiful, and I'm honoring you the way you are," and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I think another beautiful thing about yoga is that it really is a community practice in some ways. So you're
Mm.
focusing on yourself, but the community of yogis in general, they're really promoting kindness. It's we promote nonviolence. It is very much a supportive network of people. So you get that feel too. It's not competing. You're doing your
Yeah.
own thing, but everybody's there to connect and be their best selves.
And that sometimes I think the teens, especially girls that I work with, they sometimes miss it because they're on their phone so much and they do it mostly through texting. They
Mhm.
miss the true human connection and they
Yeah.
misinterpret a lot of things through the texting versus talking face to face or just even on the
Mhm.
phone. So to have that
Yeah.
whole group together that, yeah, I'm not competing with my pose with you or how far I'm into it or not,
Mhm.
but feeling very supported all at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think another, if you choose to practice in a studio, most studios have you turn your phone off and keep it away in
Yeah.
your cubby or wherever.
Yeah.
So you can't bring it into your to the studio with you and be texting. You're kind of somewhat forced to talk to the people around you while you're waiting for class to start. If you want to do that. If not, you can sit, you can medicate, you can be quiet on your own. But the opportunity is there because you're not with your electronic device that we
Right.
all rely on so much now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
Hmm.
it's another good way to just disconnect from technology just for a
Hmm.
small moment.
Hmm.
Curious, you talked about some of the concerns, girls may have or teens may have. Are there ever concerns or worries about parents, like if whether they do yoga or if they do it with their teen? Do they talk about, oh, I have to be the best at this so my kid gets it, or anything along that line? Or is it more like, no, they start to realize, wow, I'm watching how my daughter is changing and how this is benefiting them and how it's benefiting me? And
I think it varies from parent to parent. I think some parents do have those concerns, same as teens.
mhm,
We as humans tend to do this kind of judging and um, holding expectations as compared to one another. So I think parents do sometimes come with, what if I'm not good at this? What if my
yeah,
daughter's good but I'm not good at it and I make her embarrassed or something. I think those are just human concerns that can
yeah,
happen, but I do try to encourage parents to practice with their kids if
Hmm.
if they want to. You can go most classes. A lot of yoga studios now do have teen level classes, but most classes are for any age level, teens and up. So you can be in a class with your daughter practicing together. And I think once the parents start to do it a little bit, they realize the benefits too, and they can see how their daughter could benefit and they join in. Or, if they don't, I find that most parents are very encouraging of it
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful reminder, too, because again, it's that family activity, which I know sometimes parents are feeling very, I'll call it displaced, for lack of a better word,
Hmm.
because their daughter's growing up and not wanting them nearly as much. They still need them, but they also gravitate more towards their peers. And so they're like, oh, I'm missing that connection. And this would be
Yes,
an activity where, again, everybody's holding that compassion, that loving kindness to one another, being more
exactly.
mindful, yeah, with a deeper
Hmm.
connection versus the surface level. So that's great.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, I've talked a bit about practicing in a studio. You can also do this in your home. You can pull up a
Mhm.
YouTube of a yoga class and, just do it, the two or three of you together,
Yeah.
in your home. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to spend any money.
Hmm.
You can do this in your home. So I think that's really great too.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Yeah. I wanted to tie a little bit of mindfulness into this
Thank
as
you.
well.
Yes, yes.
So, yoga, we think of it as a moving meditation,
Hmm.
and a great pair with that, and actually a big shift in treatment right now and care in the field of psychology is moving towards mindfulness. And mindfulness is just about being in the present moment. And the basic foundations of mindfulness are awareness, being in the present moment, and non judgment. So, a big part of it is letting go of those judgments of the self, which no matter what your age is, we tend to do that. We tend to judge ourselves, be pretty hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And then there's also an aspect of beginner's mind is another foundation of mindfulness. And it's just looking at everything with a new set of eyes as if this was your first time. So it just brings out this kind of wonder and new appreciation for things that you might already be doing. But I think particularly for teen girls, the aspects of awareness and non-judgment are really important, and kind of hand in hand with non-judgment is this idea of acceptance,
Yeah.
accepting the selves, accepting others, and that really pairs well with yoga. And it really comes the mindfulness movement in psychology right now, a lot of it is stemming from Buddhist philosophy
Hmm.
and mindfulness from Buddhist philosophy. So, one of the things that's great about mindfulness is it does focus on the present moment. And girls with anxiety and depression are typically not very present. So, what
Right.
that means is they're either girls that are anxious are very focused on the future. What if this?
Yeah.
What if that? Will I be this?
Hmm.
Will I be that? Girls that are focused on the past are really picking out points in maybe their social interactions. Oh, that why did I do that? Why did I do that? And they get stuck in these loops, either future
Hmm.
focus or past focus. We can also be a mix of the two, which can be very challenging too. So sometimes you're focused on the future, sometimes in the past. And mindfulness really draws you in to be in the here and now with the practice. And so if you're in the present moment, you can't be stuck in the future and the past
Right.
just by the nature of it. So that's really valuable. And mindfulness, the research shows us you can just do like a minute a day, and it will show changes in your brain. And this pairs really well with yoga too, because yoga is about non-judgment,
Hmm.
acceptance, and both of these practices help with stress because they help you to hone in your relaxation response.
Yeah.
They help you to lower your blood pressure, help lower your breathing rate, help you get a sense of calm. So if you're feeling stressed before a test, you can kick into your mindfulness practice, just like a minute or two at your
Mhm.
desk. Nobody would even know. You can kick into some of your yoga breathing, or if you know you have a big day, you do some of your stretches before you get to school. SATs, that's a big one. You
Yes.
do a little mini practice before you sit down for your test. You do a little mindfulness exercise before you begin, or if you need a little break, you do it in the middle. And these can all help really improve the way that you're feeling.
I know a lot of my clients, when I talk about mindfulness, there's like, Nicole, I got to sit there for 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. And what you just said was, no, you could start out as little as a minute, and that makes an impact in the brain. And if people want to build up and a lot more time to the mindfulness and or meditation, they definitely can do it, but you don't have to start out at 30 minutes or just sitting there. It's Yoga is mindfulness training, deep
Mhm.
breathing is mindfulness training, and it starts out with just a few minutes at a time.
Yeah, and I would actually discourage from trying to just say, today I will start mindfulness and sit down
Yeah.
for 20 minutes. It's not going to work.
Right.
You really just want to build it. It's like strength training. You want to build those mind muscles up. So you got to start small. I think one of the major concerns that people have is, what if I'm doing it wrong?
Yeah.
Or if the mind is wandering a lot, people get frustrated. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, that's very normal.
Yeah.
In mindfulness, your mind is going to wander. And the beautiful thing about mindfulness is that we don't necessarily want your mind to stop wandering. We just want you to notice that and be able to bring it back to your breath. So if you're breathing and you find you're thinking about your school day, you just notice and return to the breathing. And over time that should happen less and less, but not necessarily, and that doesn't matter because it's not about not having your mind wander. It's about noticing it and just refocusing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm so glad you clarified that too, because that is one of the concerns I've heard is, well, but I keep having these thoughts. It's like, okay, I talk about it's like a cloud in the sky. You let it go. You don't have to attach
Exactly.
on to it.
Mhm.
So you've done a beautiful job of talking about all the wonderful benefits that there are for mindfulness and for yoga, and I love it because I think it's very important for folks out there, for the teens and for their parents to understand there's so many choices to help create more calmness, to create more connection, to create ways to manage our stress that enters our lives because we can't avoid it. We're going to have
Mhm.
stress.
Absolutely.
And these are definitely ways to help change the brain that make bigger impacts then as the girls continue into adulthood and then fully get their full brain, later in life. But it's ways that help them manage things as they continue to launch. Yeah. So I'm curious, are there, if I shift a little more into like things that you recommend, you talked a little bit about like, hey, you don't have to go to a yoga studio to
Mhm.
to start it. So what are some of the things you may offer either your clients or your students, like books or advice that you give them to help either begin it or continue their practices?
For my clients in particular, I have like a lot of handouts about the basics of mindfulness.
Great.
We do some experiential exercises in session so we can demonstrate and they can learn in session. And then I encourage them to try just a little bit each day or even just a little bit once a week starting to build. But I have a couple books that I think are helpful. There's a really great publisher called New Harbinger that is does evidence-based treatments and gives a lot of really great research-backed interventions.
Hmm.
And the one book is called The Mindful Teen,
Ah, yes.
and it's by Dr. Vo. That's VO. And then another one that I think is great if you're experiencing like a little more stress and anxiety and depression, I think this one, A Still Quiet Place for Teens,
Ah, okay.
and that's by Amy Saltzman. I think that's a really great book from the mindfulness perspective.
Yeah.
And then the father of mindfulness is John Kabat-Zinn,
Yes.
and you can just Google him and
Yep.
find it.
Yeah.
And I encourage everybody. I teach mindfulness meditation as a class also, and I encourage my students to just go on YouTube or go online and Google mindfulness exercises and play around and see the ones that you like and you don't like, because it's often easier to start with guided meditations and guided mindfulness. And the internet can be very challenging for teens and people in general, but can also be a beautiful resource in that, you can go to, say, YouTube and find mindfulness exercises of 1 minute, 20 minutes, all
Hmm.
different lengths. And so you can just kind of do that anywhere you have your electronics. For yoga, the a website that I really back is yogajournal.com. They have a great teen section. They also have, you can look up different poses for beginners. It really helps you to learn. I'm big into experiential, so
Hmm.
if you want to look up a YouTube and do a yoga exercise, Yoga Journal also has videos that you can practice with, or you can go to your local studio and try there. And I would
Hmm.
suggest just starting with a beginner class or a gentle beginner class. But again, you don't have to be at a studio to do this. This is something you can do in your own home, or, maybe you start in a studio, learn how to do it, and then bring it back to your home. Or
Yeah.
you guys set up the computer and look at it together and do a practice together from a video online.
That's lovely. Those are some great resources too. I'm very familiar with some of them that you talked about. And yeah, it's like, oh, they're a wealth of information. So
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
great.
And if you find you have a resource you don't like, look around, because there's more out. There's a ton
Yes.
out there. These are only, a microcosm of what's out there. There's so much out there, and there's definitely, for mindfulness, there's even specific books from the same publisher. There's, mindfulness for anxiety,
Hmm.
mindfulness for depression. In the yoga world, there is yoga for depression, yoga for
Yes.
anxiety. You can find specific poses that actually will help you with whatever you're experiencing. And one of the things that I think is great about yoga for depression too is a big intervention is behavioral activation. So just getting up to move.
Hmm.
And so this kind of is built in behavioral activation. So it's helping your mind, it's helping the body, but it's also helping you move, which will help with the depression as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I remember taking a training from a yoga instructor a few years back, and she talked about that. There are specific poses for the anxiety or depression, and you can do
Hmm.
this, or this with your clients. And it
Hmm.
was just powerful. It was lovely. So
Yeah, I actually teach workshops of just, yoga for depression or yoga for anxiety or yoga for
awesome.
emotional balance. And I'll do a whole bunch of different poses that gear towards that. So there's a lot out there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'm curious, would you please tell our listeners how they can actually find you? Like, what's your website address?
So my website is just drdettori.com. It's DETTORE. And my email is on that page as well. So you can just please feel free to email me with any questions or curiosities that you might have. I'm always happy to connect with people and help you, guide you in this area, because it can be a little overwhelming if you don't know how to enter in. The other thing that I will say though is if you feel like your teen, or if you feel like yourself, you're having a very serious issue with anxiety or depression, it's really impairing how you're going through your day-to-day life. I also encourage you to seek out, a mental health professional too,
Right.
because yoga and mindfulness are really great to manage stress and help reduce anxiety and depression, but they aren't sufficient on their own if you're having a very serious problem.
Yes.
We think
Yeah.
of it as an adjunct therapy, so not necessarily sufficient if you're having some very serious issues.
Yes, thank you for that, because that's absolutely true. It's what we were talking about earlier is a little more of the mild symptoms of things versus
Yeah,
more
some
severe. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, your normal stresses
Yeah.
as a teen. But if you find, say, your teen is isolating herself, not coming out of the room, very
Hmm.
withdrawn, seems sad all the time. You do want to. These are great ways to kind of help encourage
Hmm.
to start feeling better, but you also want to have that mental health expert in there too,
Yep.
because there's a lot that we do to help improve that.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all this great information, Melissa. I'm so glad you were able to do this today and that we can help all of our teen girls out there and their parents of how to get more mindful, create some better connections, and really get more centered on of who they are and accept who they are for when they launch and go off into college or to become the adult. So I really appreciate you being on here today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And, I encourage everyone just get out there and play. There's no
Yeah.
wrong way to do yoga. There's really no wrong way to meditate. So get out there and just explore and see what makes you feel good and, kind of stick with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you like this episode, I invite you to subscribe on iTunes to receive the weekly updates. This podcast is also available on Stitcher and Google Play. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Launching Your Daughter with Nicole Burgess, licensed marriage and family therapist. For more information or to stay up to date, go to launchingyourdaughter.com. You can sign up for my email list or join my Facebook group. Thank you.